Hello, everybody. Jim here. And today I want to talk about swords. This is going to be a series about the different weapons of Albion. And I tried looking on YouTube and I couldn't find a whole lot about it. So I'm going to go through each section. So for example, like today we're going to talk about swords. I'm going to talk about all these swords, and then a different day I'll pick a different category, and then so on and so forth. If you have a specific weapon category you want to see sooner, just let me know, and I'll do that one next. But today we are going to talk about the swords. So yeah, let's get into this. First, we're just going to do the one-handed ones. This is a broadsword. Now, swords are mainly for DPS, but you can use them for tanking. Mainly the one-handed weapons. And there is one sword that's fantastic for off-tanking, but we'll get into that in a minute. But let's see. Let's start with the Qs and the Ws. Let's scroll down a little bit. We'll go to the last one so we can see all the different abilities. But let's start with the broadsword. So the Qs, all of them have the same Qs. There's either Heroic Strike or there's Heroic Cleave. Now, the main difference is the Heroic Strike does a little bit more damage. Not a whole lot more, just a little bit more damage. As you can see, the difference is dealing 200 physical damage, and this one deals 257. But they all provide a heroic charge. And what these do is, sorry, my ear itches. They increase your movement speed and your attack speed by 12%. Stacks up to 3 times. These are really, really good to counter ranged. Because they have stuff in their kit that allows them to move quick, and they also have a decent amount of CC, maybe some gap closers. Swords, in my opinion, are a very, very, very balanced and very good weapon, in my opinion, of course. Now, for Ws, we got quite a few of them. We've got Interrupt. It does 256 damage, increases your normal attack damage by 20%, which is really, really nice. But it interrupts whatever they're doing. So spellcasters, healers, whatever. This is really, really good. Next, we have Iron Will. This increases your movement speed, increases your defense, aka tanking. Yeah. It also grants you immunity to purges. Also gives you 1 heroic charge, which that itself gives you a speed buff. Yeah, this is super, super good. Super, super good. Next, Hamstring. Attacks target player, 258 damage. It slows them. Stacks up to 2 times. There's not a whole lot to this one. But if you do have a heroic charge, you can cast it again, which is why it says you can stack it up to twice, and it gives you a leaping. Once again, this is really good for range. People are trying to kite you. Hit him once, slow him down, leap at him, hit him again, make him walk 50% slower. On top of the fact you're going to be speed boosted. Yeah, this is definitely a good counter range. Alright, next we have Splitting Slash. Split the earth in a 13-meter long line. And Rooting People also does a pretty decent amount of damage, 446. Of course at tier 8. And it's pretty self-explanatory. You hit the ground and in the line in front of them. Anyone that gets hit by this will just get rooted. Now, this is my favorite ability. Parry Strike. If you've ever seen 7 Deadly Sins, this is like full counter. But yeah, you're immune for about a little less than a second. But you reflect 100% of the damage. That is crazy. Now, it is magic damage, so you do have to keep that in. If they've got certain resistances. And then it has a little bit of AoE physical damage as well. But it's pretty expensive too. It costs 9% of your mana. A lot of these have a base mana cost. This one's 9%. So do keep that in mind. It is pretty expensive. But yeah, 100% of the damage reflected. Makes you immune to damage. Super, super good. If someone's about to do a very, very, very high burst combo, if you can time this perfectly, I've seen people get killed by just the reflect. So, super good. So that all of the swords have these abilities. They also have the same passives, deep cuts. every 4 attacks, you do just a tiny bit more damage, and it's okay. Weakening, every normal attack decreases the damage the targeted deals by 2% for 2 seconds, but stacks up to 5 times. This is actually really, really good, especially if you're trying to do some sort of a tank. This, 10% damage reduction is always nice to have. Heroic Fight, you just helps you keep up those heroic charges passively. And then increased defense, get damage resistance 60 by 68 every 2 seconds for 2 seconds. I mean, this is good too. I think personally, I think the weakening is a little bit better because you can help your whole team instead of this is just yourself. So I mean, you could pick what you want. But the main differences these swords have is, of course, their E ability. If you've been playing this game, you're already going to know that. But this one's pretty simple. Leap toward the enemy, interrupting them. But you also do damage based off of your heroic charges, and this is kind of how the sword works. There's a few other weapons that work very similar, but you want to get 3 stacks of whatever charges it has, and in this case it's heroic charges, and you do damage based on that. So of course you're going to want 3 stacks, and then congratulations, you're doing almost 1,000 damage. And this is a leap. This is a gap closer. Very strong. Broadsword is, in my opinion, very meta. It's very simple, very easy to make. If you want a cheap build, broadswords, man. Broadswords. Alright. The other one-handed sword we have is the Clarent Blade. Now, this actually got a rework. It used to be you just spun in a circle, hitting everyone around you, and your heroic charges scaled your damage. That's how it used to be. I actually love the new rework. It makes this a little bit more applicable to a lot of situations. So now you shoot a wave. Shoot that wave, right? Die. So, get back to the sword. You shoot that red wave, and upon a single damage, if you have 1 heroic charge, you do slow them by 30%, 2 silences, and 3 does a lot more damage. So base damage, it's pretty decent. It's 422. It can hit more than 1 person, which is nice. But man, if you save it for those 3 charges, you're doing a massive amount of AoE-ish damage. It's not around you anymore, but if you can group up the mobs and get in front of them and then shoot it backwards, you're going to hit all of them. So that's not really going to change anything. It's just more about positioning. You want everyone to be in a certain direction versus around you. And it has a 14, actually it's a 50, I'm pretty sure my passives are affecting that a little bit, so I think it's around a 15-second cooldown. Honestly, I should probably, I'm going to go ahead and take these off so I don't get any alterations on the cooldowns here. So yeah, 15-second cooldowns. I didn't affect it that much, and these have 3-second cooldowns, so it's 10, 20, 10, 15, 18. So, yeah. Very, very, very good weapon. Not only does it do a lot of damage, but you have some extra abilities to slow and silence. So, for PvP situations, once again, that slow, man, you're going to have a lot of slows on your kit. So, being able to keep up with players ganking and whatever should be a lot easier than some of the other weapons. So now on to 2-handed swords. We're going to start with the Claymore. And this is very similar to the Broadsword in a way. So you charge toward them and you become immune to any crowd controls, which is super nice. Debuffs and damage per second. So you do become immune to pretty much anything for 1 second. Oh, excuse me. Enemies who are not mounted will be stunned upon impact for less than a second. But the damage is insane. 1061. You save up 3 of these charges and you blast them. That's a lot. That's a lot of damage. But yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. So next we're going to go look at the Nightmaker. This one's a little bit more complex. Swing your sword, 6-meter radius around you, throwing all enemies in the air. So there's a nice little mini stun there. Deals a little bit of damage initially. It says while the enemies are in the air, you follow up with a vertical smash, dealing physical damage in a line in front. in front of and behind based on the amount of heroic charges. This is going to be a little bit more trickier to land down because they have to be either in front or behind you. If they're next to you in any way, you're not going to hit them with this second hit. So, do keep that in mind. It still is really good, maybe for Zergs or something where there's people running all around. So, really good. The next two-handed one is the Fearless Strike, the Carving Sword. Now, this one is super good against, super good for off tanks, right? So, say you're rocking a plate armor, but instead of the threat generating passive, you're running the one that reduces max HP. Well, you run that on top of running taunt. Of course, you're going to want to put taunt on that as an off tank. You want to be able to, if the main tank is starting to get really hurt, you want to pull the aggro for at least for a little bit, just so he can heal up, get his cooldowns back. But this one's super good for off tanking. Not only does it do a very respectable amount of damage, 569, and anyone you pass through, but you also reduce their damage resistance for 6 seconds. You can reduce up to 75 resistances. Now, so this does a decent amount of damage, but you also make it to where everyone in your party is going to be doing more damage. Like I said, if you have it spec'd onto a plate armor with the health reduction passive, not only is the enemy going to have less HP, not only are they going to have less HP, but they're also going to have less defenses, making them take even more damage. Super good for off tanking, in my opinion. Would recommend. Now, the last set is going to be dual blades. So just the standard dual swords. This is very similar to the broadsword as you leap toward them, but these do a little bit more damage. Now, keep in mind the broadsword is a one-handed, so you can have another item equipped into your offhand. But they're two-handed, and then, of course, the dual blades, they take up both your hands. So this one does a nice, respectable 724 damage. But hitting an enemy increases your attack speed and damage by 50%. That is insane. Pair that with another damage buff, and you're looking at just a huge burst of damage. It's only on a 15-second cooldown. So, like I said, it's pretty similar to when it comes to broadswords. Actually, does this change it? 791, so it's a little bit different. Yeah, I mean, if you compare, this one does more damage, but this one gives you that buff at the end of it. That is crazy, man. So overall, solid weapon. Now, the Galantine pair is an interesting weapon. So I guess you could say this would be good for off tanking too, but the issue is it hits in a weird angle. So let's read it. Slam your blades to the ground, unleashing magic waves in an 8-meter radius. So you decrease the max and current health of all enemies. 6% deals magic damage based on the amount of heroic charges you got. So this is a really good one. But this one kind of hits a little weird. The shape of it is kind of off. It's like a plus sign, I believe. So it's one of those, when you hit them, man, you hit them, they're going to feel it. But I feel like this one's going to be a little bit more easier to dodge. So once again, maybe zerging, when there's just so many players running around, and just jump in there, do that, hit some people, and try to run out. But, I mean, these are really good swords, but honestly, it'd probably be the least one I would pick out of the bunch, along with the Kingmaker. But yeah, those are the swords. I didn't want to make the video too long. Honestly, my favorite's probably going to be the Clarent Blade. I just love its versatility, but they are very strong. And I think swords are in a very balanced spot, in my opinion. I think they may be actually a little bit overtuned. The attack speed and the movement speed seems super strong. They got a lot of gap closing abilities, a lot of CCs. If you are struggling with ranged opponents, I think swords would be a very good counter to that. So yeah. If you liked the video, give it a like. If I made any mistakes, just put in the comments below. I'll gladly take feedback. And I would like to do these for all the weapons and armor in the game. though it's going to take some time. If you want me to look over a different set of weapons, just let me know in the comments, and I will be sure to add that to the list. And yeah, if you liked the video, give it a like. If you want to see similar content to this, hit that subscribe button, and I do plan on releasing more videos. So, thank you and have a good day.